What up, though? We are back. Blasian Soul. This is Marcella Robertson. It's my beautiful wife, Nipperporn Robertson. We're back once again to share current events, talk a little bit about what's going on in the world, hopefully have a little fun, highlight minority professionals and role models within the community, right in our own community, as well as, let's just talk about whatever is on people's mind. This is our, I don't know, 4th or 5th episode. We've had an amazing response, so thank you very much for that. We try to educate as well as have a little fun, so it should be an enjoyable experience for everybody. Coming probably about 3 episodes ago, we had a sports psychologist on the show, and he basically told us about his profession, about his background, gave us some insight into the NBA as he knows because of his, inside experience with the NBA. Certain things to look for right now in the pandemic when it comes to depression, a wealth of topics. One of the topics we did discuss was the NBA playoffs that were going on. I believe it was the 2nd round at that time. It was the 2nd round at that time. So he also gave us, in his opinion, who he thought would advance in the playoffs, who would eventually win the championship. He did give us his thoughts and viewpoints on the LeBron versus Jordan debate, which, once again, we will kind of go over quickly. But he just gave us an inside look into the mind of an athlete and what's going on. So, because the playoffs are done, the Los Angeles Lakers won the title. They are the champions. My wife has no idea because she just passes me by
really?
when I'm watching the games. She'll look every once in a while and keep it moving. But the Lakers did win. LeBron got his 4th. Okay. So, we want to kind of delve into that. I did ask whether or not he'd come back after the finals were over to kind of discuss what went on and what's going on in the sports world from a professional standpoint. So we would like to reintroduce Dr.
Lennox Forrest. Please like and share, you guys. We love your interaction. Ask any questions you would like. So without further ado, we welcome Dr. Lennox Forrest here with us.
Hi.
Hi, Doctor.
We can't see you.
Can't see.
Not sure what's going on.
Oh, maybe refresh your screen. That might work.
Give me one moment again, okay?
Yes, absolutely. Take your
time. Of course.
Do you have any other announcements?
I was going to do, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we do need to tackle that topic as well. So in the next couple of weeks, we're trying to put together something for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This is in a certain way because my sister-in-law had breast cancer and has beaten breast cancer. I was trying to look for the exact post that she put that gave us timelines, but she had been dealing with this for a while. It was there. It came back again, so she has been in a battle with it, and I'm happy to say right now she is cancer-free. Thank God.
Yes. You guys definitely go and support her channel. She is a YouTuber, and she has a cooking show, Cooking with Nana. So if you would, please go and subscribe to her show. She's got over millions of views and lots of great authentic Lao recipes. So feel free to go and check her out, Cooking with Nana. So we are just happy to celebrate her this month with Cancer Awareness Month. And she beat cancer not once, but twice. So definitely go and give her a shout out on her YouTube channel. So we're going to try and bring our guest in again. And let's see if this will work here. Just one second.
That's unusual.
Yes. Yes, sometimes. Sometimes that happens if the wow. Shout out to Nana. You're welcome. We love you. We love you. We love you. So we are having a little bit of technical difficulties right now getting Dr. Lennox on, but we are going to just bear with us for a minute here. And we are going to see.
And I wanted to get him on because
so
we were joking about the picks that we both had and who would eventually come out on top. And I will, I guess, spoil a little bit of the surprise and say that he had the Clippers going to the Western Conference Finals. So he thought the Clippers would meet the Lakers. He did think that the Lakers would win in 6 or 7. And he did think that they would win the championship, but he was very unsure about Miami initially, and he thought the Clippers they were going to defeat Denver because they had a 3-1 lead, and there is no way that with that type of squad you would, I guess, blow a 3-1 lead. So I was going to razz him a little bit. I was going to give him a little bit, because he knows far more about sports than we would ever hope to imagine. So you got to give him a little grief if his guys didn't make it there. Now, he did say that LeBron will win a championship. I guess we're both in agreement that LeBron is the best player ever. I know that's sacrilege to say because of Jordan, and we all know about the 6 championships and the dominance he had. So that is a little blasphemous, but we kind of went over some of the things last week or the week that he was on as far as his career, how many times he's been to the finals. It was always better to get to the finals than not make it. So we did touch upon Jordan didn't make it like 4 or 5 years out of his career. LeBron, I think once or twice at most. Other than that, we're looking at 10 NBA final appearances. So, I hope to get him back because we have a lot to discuss as far as sports are concerned.
Definitely. And, with sports psychology, there's also some principles of mental toughness. So I'm curious to pick his brain, especially right now with the pandemic going on, to kind of help you guys and us, get through this together from a mental health standpoint. So we're going to try to bring Dr. Lennox in again, Dr. Forrest in, and there you are. All right. Got him. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi there.
How you doing?
Good.
So did your team win?
No. Let's not start it there. Let's back up a little bit there. Let's back up. All right. So,
good.
let me just say who won in the rounds, and then after that, I will underlie our picks. But the Miami Heat did defeat the Celtics. I don't even know if I want to start. Okay, I'll go. The Clippers in Denver, it was 3-1. The Clippers fell to Denver. The Lakers beat Denver to get to the finals.
Yes.
Was it Miami? Who did Miami play before Boston? I can't even. Oh, Milwaukee. Okay, so they beat Milwaukee. And they beat the Celtics to get there. Miami versus the Lakers. Now, you did say that you were very impressed with Miami, that because they beat Milwaukee, they were a sleeper team because of the momentum they had. But our picks were, I picked Miami and the Lakers to be there.
Yes.
Before that, I had Denver beating the Clippers.
Yes.
And you had the Clippers advancing past Denver. So your Miami picks were right. There was a slip up there with the Clippers. What happened to the Clippers being up 3-1 with a more superior team, but to lose?
Very good question. In sports, the team that's supposed to win doesn't always win.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we saw that the Clippers were up 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was looking forward to the Clippers winning.
Yes.
Now, we also know that Denver was another sleeper team.
Yes.
I forget the exact words that your brother utilized. And when he said it, basically said something like, let's just get on with it because the Clippers will defeat the Nuggets.
Right.
When he said that, I was thinking, you know what? There is a possibility that the Clippers might not win.
Yeah.
But I did say I felt that they would win mainly because of their superstar.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that he would carry them. The last game, Game 7, he did not play well. Also, his assistant, Paul George, did not play well either. And if we want to go one step further, I felt that the Clippers were outcoached.
Okay.
And Denver was a Cinderella team.
Right.
So they upset the Clippers. I wasn't totally shocked at that. But I was always going with the Clippers. Because if you looked at the opening of the season, tremendous rivalry between Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James.
Yes.
Those two were pitted against each other, and we felt that it would have been destiny for the two of them to win. I mean, to play each other.
Right.
But it didn't work out that way. But still a good series.
Yeah, very good series.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about, number one, them firing Doc Rivers after the series, which to a certain degree, maybe not overt, to a certain degree, I would say that is blaming the coach to a certain degree. If you fire him right after a playoff loss. And then two, what do you think about the dynamic of the team, considering we're hearing rumblings that other players on the team are saying that Paul George isn't worth the money that they're spending on him, that he's not a real superstar. From Patrick Beverly to the Morris guy, sources say that those two were saying that they're paying this guy all this money, but he's not really a superstar. So first, let's take the Doc question. What do you think about them firing Doc?
I wasn't surprised. A matter of fact, I said to some people that I expect that he would be fired. Because number one, if you look at the situation historically, I don't know how many years Coach Rivers has been with the Clippers, but it's been a number of years. I'd probably say 6 or 7 years.
Yes, definitely.
And they've always had good teams.
Yep.
Okay, historically, he had CP3, DeAndre Jordan,
yep.
Blake. They've had some really good teams, but they've never gotten as far as they should have.
Right.
So the firing was not surprising to me because they've always had the nucleus. But as I've said before, sports is a serious business. The fans look at it very, very differently. But when you're in it, when you're immersed in it, you see that it is all about winning. And if you can't win, you are not going to be around for too long. Now, what's also intriguing is that once he was fired, and it was only about 2 days ago that I realized that he's already picked up by another team.
Oh, yeah.
So you can lose and get picked up very easily because of your history.
There's a question I've always had about that. Why is it so prevalent to recycle coaches as opposed to giving new coaches and college coaches a try? If I failed at 3 different locations, what is the indication that I'll win at the 4th?
Well, that comes down to the experience. When it comes to sports, it's hard to discount someone's experience. Okay. Doc Rivers has been coaching for many, many years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he is a seasoned coach. So every team is going to take that into consideration. And also, he's a very personable person.
Yeah.
Okay. The players love him because one of the things about him is that he can connect.
Yeah.
And not every coach can connect.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can connect with people as a coach and they look up to you and they feel comfortable, they're going to be motivated to play for you.
Yeah.
So he has that ability to connect with people, which is very, very important in any field because all things come down to human relationships. So I think that's where Doc Rivers excels at. So not surprising that, yes, he didn't have a winning season with the Clippers, but he's still a very well-respected coach, and people and players love him. So he will always get an opportunity. And what's important also is that he has had a championship win.
Yes.
So that says something in the game of sports.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, let's take the second question. What do you think about the Paul George disconnect, for lack of a better term, with some of the other players? The grumblings that, he's not always cracked up to be, so to speak.
Well, if you remember, I did say that I didn't put Paul George in the upper echelons.
Right.
He's a very good player. He's very solid, but I don't always like to compare players. But a few weeks ago, I said that Kawhi is a bona fide superstar.
Right.
Okay? I don't want to compare the two players.
Mm-hmm.
But George has tremendous potential. And in my opinion, he's very streaky.
Okay.
If he becomes more consistent, which I believe he can do, he can elevate his game, and he's not far from that superstar status. Now, not knowing everything with Paul, but I do know that with athletes, that if you don't have the right attitude, you can alienate your teammates. So that could be an issue there. I'm not saying that it is.
Mm-hmm.
But how an athlete carries himself, how he can relate to his teammates,
Mm-hmm.
how he deals with them makes a huge difference. Because you have some players that some teams will say this person is a cancer to the team.
Right.
So we don't care how good you are. But in terms of getting along, meshing your chemistry with the others, maybe there could be an ego problem.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes as individuals, we have that inflated ego, and that can turn people off. So I'm not certain about the situation with Paul George, but a great player. But I think he needs to be more consistent. And who knows what's going on in terms of the team dynamics.
Okay. That's a good segue. I didn't ask you last time. Did you see The Last Dance, the Jordan documentary?
I saw portions of it. I didn't see it in its entirety.
Okay. The general consensus is that even though Jordan is arguably the greatest basketball player ever, he was very abrasive to his teams. And we've seen that in many different episodes where he was yelling or cussing, or we heard about him punching, or even when it's so far with Horace Grant, is that Horace had a bad game. And when they got on the team plane, he told him, "You're not eating. You can't have dinner," and told them, "Don't give him a plate." So what do you think about that dynamic, considering it was so successful for him to have that type of attitude?
Still be on the team.
Right. It produced winning.
Yeah.
So you can't argue with the methods that he used, but it seems very abrasive. It seems very alienating. What is your thought process on that?
Well, I think with Jordan, that's a unique situation because, number one, unquestionably, he was the leader of that team.
Yes.
Without a shadow of a doubt, he's the leader. And because he was such a fun player, he had their respect. And when you have the respect of people, it gives you a little bit of latitude that you might not have with someone else. Okay, so he could say that to Grant, and maybe the type of person that Grant is, he wouldn't be offended. He could handle it. And also, you have to look at the relationship. Okay, despite Jordan's abrasiveness, I think he had specific relationships with players. And I also think that he knew who he could really harp on to draw the most out of them. That's not going to work with everyone. But I think because of his greatness, he could tap into certain things and he could get away with saying and doing certain things, even though some of the players may say, you know what, as a teammate, he was terrible. We know that every day that he comes to play and he comes to practice, he's leaving it all out there.
Right.
So because of that, you're going to work extra with that person. And also, you don't want to disappoint.
Right.
You don't want to disappoint. So he helps to elevate their playing performance to another level. And not every athlete can do that. So I think he was a serious leader on the court. And that speaks volume for who he is.
Okay. Getting back to the NBA playoffs this year, so Miami and the Lakers did meet in the playoffs. What was your initial thoughts about that matchup?
I felt that Miami was going to get there, okay? And initially, I felt it would have been a quick series. But I also know that anything can happen.
Yeah.
It's a very good matchup. I felt that the Lakers would take it. I stated that earlier.
Yeah.
But when you look at the Jimmy Butler situation, I don't know how many people are familiar with Jimmy Butler's history. But this is a young man that was pretty much thrown out of his household by his mother at about 15 or 16 years of age. I also believe that Jimmy Butler may not know his natural father. But when you look at his dynamics, he went and stayed with a friend of his at 16 years of age. And that family took him in and they embraced him. Okay? And his friend's mother, that's who he sees as his mother. So he came from a very difficult situation. And sometimes that can help a person develop emotionally.
Right.
So having that type of a background, I was going for Jimmy Butler's team.
Right.
Because I can identify with the struggles. The experiences that we go through, that's what make us what we are.
Right.
And some of the experiences that we go through, we wouldn't buy them for $1 million and we wouldn't sell them for a penny. But nevertheless, they make us what we are. So I believe that Jimmy's Butler situation has given him the impetus not to take anything for granted and to work as hard as he can as an athlete.
Right.
And I believe that fueled his fire. And I didn't see a lot of the games because a couple of the games were on, I believe, on Friday night.
Right.
And I don't watch television on Friday night because I'm a Sabbath keeper. But I think one night I heard him and LeBron were going head to head. They're
Yes.
pretty much trading buckets.
Yeah.
And people were saying that, you know what? I didn't think that Butler could perform at such a high level. But when an athlete comes from severe adversity and they know what it's like to not have anything, to not be anything, to be rejected, to be ostracized, and you have an opportunity to rise to an occasion, Because of those experiences, you can do it. And I think he showed us that. So it went six games, correct?
Yep.
The series?
Yes, it did.
And right. And I believe a lot of people were telling me, it's going to go 4. But I said, I believe they're going to win 1, and maybe they might even win 2. I didn't think they're going to win the series, but it was an enjoyable series.
It was big time. Yeah, big time. Jimmy Butler really showed out. Really showed that he is a superstar, not in the traditional sense. Even though he dropped 30 a few times, he's more of a jack of all trades. So if you need me to lock down the toughest guy, I'll do that. If you need me to run point forward and dole out assists, I can do that. And he's quite comfortable having only 15 or 18 points a game in a particular game, but also having 8 rebounds and 7 assists and playing defense on the hardest guy. So he did really show his true mettle because he willed those guys to victory in at least one of those games. What do you think about LeBron winning his 4th MVP as well as winning his 4th championship?
LeBron is a phenomenal athlete. What's interesting is that I had a patient come to see me yesterday, and he was in his full Chicago Bulls gear. And he wanted to entice me into a conversation about who's the greatest player. And he was obviously a Michael Jordan fan.
Right.
And he had some disparaging things to say about LeBron. But it was all good banter.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron is another athlete that has a strong intrinsic desire to win.
Right.
And he has an opportunity to show his greatness. And when he has that opportunity, he's taken the reins. He's performing at a phenomenal range in terms of his chronological age as an athlete. Okay, he's been in the league for, 17 or 18 years?
17 years.
That's right. And he's still performing at an unbelievable level.
Yes.
He's a leader. Okay, he orchestrates things. And nobody can say that this is not a great basketball player.
Yes.
And there's things that I know that I'm not privy to say. But when he comes to practice, he comes to practice.
Right.
On the floor early, and he leaves laughed. That says a lot.
It does.
When it comes to looking after his body, unbelievable.
Mm.
And he's going to be playing for years to come.
Oh, yeah.
This is a man that loves the game. And I tell a lot of my patients that whenever you're doing something and you love it, it's not work.
Right.
It's not work at all, because you're just having fun. And he is having fun with his teammates. And him and Anthony Davis, they're locked in together. And they have a lot of talent. That team is very diverse. And it's a team that has a lot of depth. So his performance, incredible.
Yeah. Now, another question that popped up after he won was that Anthony Davis is the best, I don't want to say sidekick because that's demeaning, but is the best Robin to his Batman that he's ever had. And some would say D Wade takes that distinction, or even Kyrie maybe. So what are your thoughts on AD already being called the best player that LeBron has ever played with?
That's up for debate, but I wouldn't refute it. Now, you have to look at everything. Number one, how do the two players complement each other? Is there complementarity between them? And I would say yes. Okay, it's like they can reach each other.
Mm-hmm.
They have that vision.
Right.
that most people don't have. Some people will call it the sixth sense. They have that on the basketball court. And what's also interesting about those two players, in my professional opinion, is that there's no competition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so important between athletes, because sometimes the ego can get in the way. If we look at Kyrie and LeBron, I think there was an ego there.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
They didn't mesh as well as they did, as they could have, I should say. Now, with Miami.
See, that's where I everything that you just said about AD, I feel that LeBron had with D Wade. No ego involved, because D Wade stepped aside and said, "Take the reins," and then compliment each other, because though, you were saying sixth sense, there are sometimes that each of them would throw a full court pass to the other while they're in the air to lay the ball up or dunk it. It was amazing sometimes how they knew where each other would be on the court. So that's why I have a toss-up on whether or not D Wade is truly, and plus D Wade won 2 championships with them. AD only won 1. So that's why I go with D Wade.
I was going to get to that. So I echo your sentiments. And once again, with D Wade and LeBron, there is friendship. There's no ego there. Okay? They wanted to see each other succeed, and they're dedicated to a common goal, which is to win, whatever it takes. If I have to take a back seat, I'm good with that. So you've got to look at those types of dynamics. But I don't think that was there with Kyrie and LeBron, because it looked like that Kyrie wanted to exert himself. And I think there was something said in the media that when Kyrie went to Boston, he apologized to LeBron for some things.
I've seen that as well. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to look at the dynamics, and then you also have to look at the relationship, and then you have to look at that ego part of things. But definitely there is no ego with LeBron and D Wade, and it doesn't appear that there's an ego problem with AD and LeBron. But 2 very, very good sidekicks for LeBron. And LeBron, he's a teacher, he's a coach, he's a student of the game. And that's what makes him such an incredible basketball player. His IQ, as they call it, incredible. But I also think he's got EI, which is emotional intelligence on that basketball court. That way he can utilize everyone, and he's not afraid to do it, because he's committed to winning, because that will be his legacy, is that he's focused on winning.
To those that, and I do see Michael Mitchell did put on there, let her ask some questions. I do let her ask questions, but she's not really versed in basketball. So when we got to the portion where the doctor discussed his services and who would need them and the depression aspects that are going on right now, I was going to turn the floor over to her. So there you go. For those who were not here the last time, can you just give us a brief summary of why you say that LeBron is the greatest of all time as opposed to Michael Jordan? Because that is the governing topic right now since he won the championship.
Yeah, I didn't flat out come out and say that LeBron is the greatest of all time, but we certainly have to have him in that conversation. Okay, it is so difficult to say who supersedes who, LeBron or Michael Jordan, and a lot of people will interject Kobe Bryant in that conversation. A lot of people will interject Magic Johnson, Kareem, Oscar Robertson. We can go on and on and on. But when a person has earned their dues, we have to give it to them. And right now, at the top of that basketball heap is LeBron James, without any questions, in my professional opinion. And as I said, I have intricate knowledge of certain things that I'm not privy to say. But this is an athlete who is dedicated to his craft. Okay? Dedicated to his craft. He spends hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment to keep himself in shape. And for him to be performing at this level, knowing that he has hundreds of thousands of basketball mileage on his body, and still can bring it every day, you got to give the man his props.
I agree. Yeah, I get a lot of flack. I do say that LeBron is the best. So I get a lot of flack for that. And my thought process is, if you've played the game or you're a fan of the game, you understand the more wins that you have in any given season is better than less. So when people say that he won 6 years in a row, I say, well, what about the 5 years before that, before he had Pitt, which he got bounced in the first round twice, in the second round. Granted, he was playing the Detroit Pistons, he was playing the Boston Celtics, but he got bounced early in those rounds. LeBron has been to the finals 10 times. That is amazing, even if he did not win. I go back to the Buffalo Bills, and when they went to the Super Bowl like 4 times in a row, even though it was heartbreaking, I would far more rather get to the finals and say that we were at least the second best team in the league every year than to get bounced in the first or second round. So to me, that's a defining factor in itself.
Mm-hmm.
One more before we get to the clinical side, but in football, did you hear about Dak Prescott?
I did hear he was injured, but I didn't hear the extent of what happened. Is that what you're talking about?
He's gone for at least this season. He's got a uphill battle as far as rehab is concerned. Everybody doesn't come back from an injury like that. It looked gruesome from us watching just from the TV, but the killer part of it was that, number one, he had been trying to get a new contract because he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Number two, Dallas had been playing hardball to a certain degree, so they just franchise tagged him so they didn't have to give him a big contract yet. Knowing this and knowing that basically he was playing for that new contract this year, he was on the cart being carted off the field, and you just seen him in tears. So it pulled at the strings of him. So first of all, what is the thought process that athletes go through when they know immediately that it is a possible career-ending injury?
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, as I said, I didn't see what happened with Prescott, and I wasn't aware of how significant the injury is. But you're saying it's pretty much what we call a CEM, which is a career-ending move. Okay? So obviously a situation like that is going to bring on a lot of bitterness for that athlete. And we look at that as a negative emotion.
Right.
So we look at negative emotions, and the top 5 are anger, resentment, bitterness, unforgiveness, and guilt. So I think Prescott is feeling a lot of those. He's probably replaying that particular play that caused the injury. So I think that's dominating his mind.
Wow.
He's also angry at his situation. Why did this have to happen? I'm performing at a high level. I'm trying to solidify my legacy and also put my family in a position that finances will not be an issue for us.
Right.
So now that is not a reality. He's at the mercy of the team. And this is the ugly part about sports, is that first and foremost, it's a business.
Right.
That's what sports is all about. As fans, we look at it as entertainment. but it is a serious business. And sometimes, unfortunately, there are players on that team who want to see someone get hurt. That's the reality of it. Because now they get an opportunity to step in and play and show what they can do. So for Prescott, I'm sure he's feeling some depression. And once again, depression is anger turned inside out. He may never be the same again. He may never play football. And that's what he loves to do, is to play ball. There's nothing better than suiting up, being in that locker room with your teammates, that camaraderie, receiving the adulation from fans, others. So I think it's a difficult situation for Prescott. And as you said, it was a heartstring moment.
Right.
So internally, he's weeping. And my heart goes out for him. Because when you have to get carted off the field, that's serious. Because as an athlete, you like to be able to walk off or get helped off. But when you have to get carted off, that's saying a lot. But we're hoping that the team will do the right thing, but you can never count on that. Never count on that. Because now he's expendable. He's not value to us anymore. And that's the ugly part of the business of sports.
Yeah, I agree. I do feel that now. I mean, I believe Jerry Jones will still offer him a contract. I think that his leverage with negotiations is severely hampered now. And I don't ever want to wish bad on Dak, because people have come back from leg injuries or foot and ankle injuries before. The only reason why I am I guess hesitant is because Dak is a young quarterback, but he's still mobile to a certain degree. Not maybe mobile up the field, but mobile in the pocket and things of that nature. So I hope for the best, but I thought it was interesting that everyone said he should get paid what he was asking. Dallas played hardball and franchise tagging, which was still $30 million, but he was looking for the 35, 36 over 5 years, that big contract that quarterbacks get. And when they didn't give it to him, he had a severe injury that will likely keep him out all of this season. Well, I know he'll be out all of this season because they won't take a chance. But and then going into next season in doubt because he didn't have a contract.
Right.
Now we will turn to my beautiful wife to talk about your. Hey, I'm a sports guy. To talk
I
about,
wouldn't know what to ask anyway.
To talk about your services. Who are your potential or perfect clients, and if someone does need help with depression or some of the other things that you have expertise in, how they can get a hold of you. So I turn it over and I say nothing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm good.
So, Dr. Forrest, what my question to you is, seeing that we're all dealing with this pandemic, and as we're talking about sports and the mental toughness, what are some of the principles or some of the tips that you might offer to our listeners today as they're dealing with trying to stay tough during this time? If they do feel defeated, what are some things that they could do?
That's a very good question. One of the things that I would encourage people to do at this stage is to really be able to structure yourself, structure your life. Because that's the thing about playing sports, is that you know that at a certain time, you're going to go and practice. You're going to go and maybe lift some weights. You're going to go and exercise. So your structure is there with sports. So pandemic has changed our lives. It's
Mhm.
disrupted things. But keep your life structured. Involve yourself in a routine. For example, you get up at 8 o'clock, you have breakfast.
Okay.
If you're working remotely,
Mhm.
you get dressed as opposed to being at home in your night clothes.
Mhm.
So that way, you're giving yourself structure and you're doing what we call in psychology, you're acting as if. You're
Got it.
acting as if things are still moving forward in a normal way. So that gives your brain the message that, you know what, things are still moving forward. So to structure yourself, that will help you mentally.
Got
Okay,
it.
One interjection, and this is
please.
just to tout my own horn, but she gets on me about that, about being methodical, getting up at a certain time, getting dressed. Even when I worked, I used to have a job where I worked from home. I had a home office. I would
Right.
still get up, put on my shirt and tie, the whole 9 yards, and I used to get ridiculed for that from someone in this podcast. I won't name any names, but so we see that that is healthy mental behavior to be
Yeah,
structured even when things are amiss, like a pandemic. Okay,
right.
you guys go ahead.
Because that helps you to feel that you have control over the situation.
Got
Okay, it
it.
gives you feelings of mastery, which is very, very important mentally.
Got it. Okay, I'm gonna start structuring myself. I won't get up at 11. Okay, so now that the cold weather, I heard we might be having snow next week. Now that the cold weather is coming up, I know that I don't know if it's a real thing. Maybe you could explain, but the seasonal depression, right? With people call it the seasonal depression or whatever it is. You know that winter is coming up. What are some of the things that I could do? Or, I mean, the listeners
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
could do.
it's got to be the lack of sun. It has to be because this one, the world is coming to an end in winter for her.
Oh my gosh.
By the spring,
I think we break up every winter.
yeah, by the spring, everything is awesome. I love you. You're the greatest husband ever. During the winter months, it's I can do no right. So there has to be some type of mental explanation or physical explanation for it. I told her I got her vitamins, I got her vitamin D
She
pills,
did.
and the sunlight. We're gonna get a sun lamp, but something is amiss when it gets gloomy outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's right. It's called SAD,
Okay.
seasonal affective disorder, and a lot of people experience that during the winter because the sun just brightens people's affect up.
Mm.
Very, very important. So one of the things that I encourage people to do is to change the bulbs, the lighting in their
You
house.
said you were gonna get me UV lights.
Yeah. Get those LED lights.
Mm-hmm.
Just change that in your house. And then the next thing is to buy one of those, they call them happy lights.
Oh.
Philips makes a good product. And just have the person sit in front of that 10 minutes in the day, another 10, 15 minutes in the evening. And that will help to brighten a person's mood and affect. Because with the diminished sunlight in the winter, people do get depressed. And another important thing to do is to exercise. And that doesn't have to be for a long period of time, but 10, 15 minutes of vigorous exercise, it will help to activate the serotonin levels in a person's brain. And after that exercise, that's going to help a person feel better. So
Okay.
those are the things that I would encourage a person to do now that the sun is withdrawing from us. But if you engage in those activities, it will make a big difference in your life.
Awesome. Yay. That's great. to know that SAD does exist. I mean, you hear about it and, you know, but I didn't realize that it could possibly be a real thing.
I did.
Yeah.
You felt it.
It definitely is.
Wow. I think I have SAD every winter.
I know she has. Okay, so why don't you tell people your specific expertise in psychology?
I work in a few different areas. Do a lot of relationship management. A lot of people who come to see me are struggling in their relationships with their significant others or maybe with their children. So I say that the greatest struggle on earth is in the area of relationships. People struggle in relationships for many different reasons. It can be mainly attributable to how they were raised, their family of origin, and the experiences that they have gone through, and how they've been socialized. So all of those things impact how we relate to other people. So being able to know certain things about yourself that can bring about some change. But once again, the great struggle that we experience is in the area of relationships, whether it's husband and wife, mother and daughter, father, son, co-workers, aunts, uncles. The greatest struggle on earth is in the area of relationships.
Relationships, yeah.
That's one of the key areas that I focus on.
Have you seen a rise in that with COVID, with everybody being in one closed area?
Yeah, what we're seeing with COVID, we're seeing a few things. Number one, if two people are married or they're in a relationship and the relationship wasn't going well, now that people are spending more time together, we're seeing an implosion in those relationships because now there's more time together. There's unresolved issues that weren't dealt with. So there tends to be more conflict. So we are seeing that just like we're seeing a rise in domestic violence.
Oh, wow.
So being in close proximity to each other,
yes,
it can heighten conflict. And a skill that most people need, that most people don't have, is how to resolve conflict in a positive way. So because people are lacking in those skills and more time together, especially in close quarters, we're seeing increased conflict in relationships.
Interesting.
Okay, so we have relationship psychology, we have sports psychology. Are those your two main modalities?
I would say so. And I do a lot of testing. People may want to have a child or someone else tested for various reasons, maybe to find out what their IQ is, if there's any learning problems, are there any disorders such as ADHD. So testing can give information as to what might be going on with someone. Is there a personality struggle, a mood disorder? So we utilize tests to give us answers to questions that people are having about loved ones, or the school might want to find out what's going on with a particular student. So they may call me in to evaluate that student. So once again, we do some testing to give us some answers to some questions.
Gotcha.
Okay. So if someone is struggling with depression or having relationship issues right now, how would they reach out and get in contact with you?
They can contact the office, and that phone number is 616-249-8486. Or they can make contact with my assistant, and her phone number is 616-550-0744. Or they can catch me on the website, which is www.mentalpsych.com. Or they can send us an email at drforrest.faith@gmail.com. Those are usually the best ways to reach me.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much for
Yes.
coming on. We
Pleasure.
appreciate you coming on a second time.
Thank you.
I always, like I said, throw a curveball question at the very end. So we're going to make the earliest prediction known. Who will win the NBA championship next year?
Next year.
And we're going to hold you to this.
Wow, that's
Woo.
a good question. Now we're really projecting far into the future, Marcella.
Yes. That's
a
why I said
long
it's
projection.
a curveball. Yes.
Okay. You know what? Based on what I've seen thus far, I don't think I'd be off the mark to say that the Lakers are coming back again.
Okay. Now listen to this closely because this directly challenges your pick. I say that the Golden State Warriors are coming out of the West. So that means theoretically they would have to defeat LeBron and the Lakers to get there.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
it's going to be an intriguing year because the Clippers, I think the Clippers might be right there too. So you're going with Golden State Warriors?
Yeah.
I'm saying that the Lakers and the Clippers are going to be real close.
You should not hold faith in the Clippers anymore after the way they choked this year. That is just wrong on so many levels.
We'll see. You know what? We'll be right here next year talking about it.
We'll be right here next year. That's a heck of a plug right there. You're right. We will be here. Dr. Forrest, thank you very much for being on the show again. We hope to have you in the coming year, and we will be looking for those picks for next year.
Thank you.
Anything to say to the doctor before we let him go?
No, I appreciate you. I have my notes
Thank
down.
you. All right.
Yeah, we got free. We just got free. We got a free session from you just now with her whole sad thing. So I'm looking at it from that aspect is that, hey, I just saved a ton of money right there on that.
You know how it goes. How this winter goes.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. Like I said, great podcast. Like I said, we try to interject some fun. We don't want it to be quote unquote as serious all the time. So we've had sociologists on, we've had psychiatrists, we've had attorneys, but we like to have sports psychologists. We had a movie director last week to lighten the mood a little bit as well. We want everybody to have fun. The initial premise was that we would challenge that people of color don't have a lot of role models right now to look up to, and that's one of the reasons of the plight of people of color right now, and we beg to differ. There's a lot of role models out there, not just the celebrity role models, but ones as you see within your own community. So that's all for me this week. What do you got to say, young lady?
I think that is it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for all of your comments and your feedback. Be sure to watch and share. If you're watching the replay, feel free to share as well. We'll see you next time, same place, next Wednesday.
Deuces.
Bye-bye.